Alright, let's get started. I have a couple primitives that I want to put together, start building the face. I'll add in a couple nostrils. Then I'm going to go in with the flatten tool and start knocking down some of the visible edges. I'm using the inflate tool to make the nostrils a little bit more pronounced, a little bit more organic shaped. Can you see my symmetry line there is a little bit off, so I'll have to adjust that. If your symmetry line is off and you try to move your object, it'll move either side of the symmetry in that direction. It's a lot easier to start off with your symmetry in the right place than do what I did and try to go back and put it where it belongs. Now I'm going back and forth between the flatten tool and the move tool. I'm going to smooth things out a little bit, use carve to dig out the eyes, and then I'm going to use clay to start building up the brow and create some more features. Use the carve tool to line in the mouth, and then the move tool to start creating jaws and work on the beak a little bit. I wanted to leave all of my mistakes in here so that people could learn from what I did so that they can save time on their own end. Just using the clay tool to build up some scales and some features. Using the move tool to pull out the jaw and the bottom of the beak. The maw. I like to go back and forth between using the carve tool to physically draw into the clay and the clay tool to build up features. It really just depends on what's more efficient at the time. Sometimes what I'll do, instead of making my brush bigger or smaller, is I'll zoom in or zoom out because the brush stays the same size. So if you zoom in, you have a smaller brush. If you zoom out, you have a larger brush. Don't hesitate to use a reference picture like fantasy art, or in this case, as you can probably tell at this point, I was using a photograph of an alligator to kind of generalize where I wanted scales to fall and patterns. Notice the amount of time I save with symmetry on. Not only do I have to only draw half of the face, or the scales on half of the face, but I don't have to flip back and forth trying to match either side. Later in the video, you'll see where that will work against me though, and I have to go back in and fix things. Kind of speeding up a little bit just to kind of get through things, just so you can kind of see where I'm going. You could take it into model view instead of just outright sculpting, and take a primitive, get it to the basic shape you want, bring it back into sculpt, and then actually start to manipulate it and give it detail. Saves a lot of time, and you have a lot more accuracy. Taking it back into model, it's easy to create a basic neck. Here's another mistake I made, I'll point out later, is not creating the entire tail at this time. Let me know if you have any questions, or if I'm not explaining anything thorough enough, or if I'm talking too much. Now that I'm starting to sculpt in muscle, I actually used human arms as a reference, a bodybuilder as reference to go in and start laying in some of the muscle tone. The mask tool can be very helpful for creating solid lines and not manipulating the clay where you don't want it to be changed. That's what those black lines are. Right here is where I had symmetry turned on, and I was sculpting on the right arm, and it completely blew out the left side of the chest. I had those weird bubbles. I left them in there so I could show how strange it was, and I just went in and cleaned it up. I took the flatten tool and just knocked them down. Again, using the mask, it's easy to go in with the inflate tool and kind of pop that edge up, give it kind of a feel of armor with a nice clean edge. I'm going to create some hands. I'm only going to create one hand. From that one hand, I'm going to create the other 3 hands. I created 1 finger. I went in and created the other 3 fingers. This is the one thing I wish Forger had, was some way to give different elements of the body its own skeleton, so then you could just manipulate the skeleton and manipulate the entire structure around the skeleton. This is definitely something they need to develop in the future. Again, you can see how well symmetry works. It makes your job so much easier. I also used a photograph of an alligator for this part to kind of get the flow of the scales. Everything kind of has a pattern with small scales, large scales. And play around with the mask tool a little bit. It's easier to just draw on. So you can see how my symmetry messed me up there on the arm. I wasn't doing anything on the arm, so it didn't really matter, so I just kind of left it. But I could use the mask to kind of give that rib cage, ridge, muscle area some definition. I don't know if you saw on the left arm and the left leg, the spikes kind of joined together. You really have to be careful in Forger. If elements are too close to each other, when you remesh, for some reason will join together. I'm really not sure if there's a way to fix that or change that, or maybe it's a programming issue that they could kind of calm down with the sensitivity. Now I'm just taking the move tool and I'm pushing the edges of all of these scales together so they look less like bubbles and actually more like scales. Just going around the edge. Push everything together a little bit. Starts looking a little more natural. If this is taking this long in a speed sculpt, imagine how long it took to actually do it. I probably have about 15 hours into the sculpt by the end. I knocked 15 hours of video down to about 35 minutes. I don't think I could be interesting for 15 hours. I'm not sure that I'm interesting for 35 minutes. Here was another symmetry thing. I didn't have it turned off and I kind of messed up the scales on the right shoulder, or the horns on the right shoulder. So I tried to clean those up a little bit. But it does give them a little bit more of a natural look when they're not even and perfect, so not a terrible thing. You can always make good of your bad. Now I'm going in and I'm raising up some of the scales so they're not all nice and flat, which would be kind of unrealistic, I imagine, for a dragon. It's probably gotten some tussles, things have broken off and grown back uneven. So I'm just giving the scales different height in different places. Kind of knocking down some of the edges so they're not so smooth. Let me know if there's anything you need for your campaign you're playing or setting up. If you have any custom pieces you need for board games. It's really what I would like to do. Is just make things that other people need. There's a billion dragons on the internet you can download STL files to print. I would really like to make things that people can use. On my page, I have a pile of skulls. I have individual tentacles. I'm going to be posting platforms to indicate that a character is flying via lava or water or air. All of these things are fun to sculpt, but I would like things that's going to be useful to people. And here we're back to where I should have added the tail in the very beginning in the first place. I wouldn't have had to figure out a way to add it later. Always rough in your entire creature, character, whatever it is you're sculpting, whatever it is you're making. Rough in the entire thing before you go in and start getting ridiculous with details and all of these added features. So what I decided to do is I'm going to use the mask and I'm going to notch out an area so as you can see I can just fit the tail into it. Because at this point, if you can see where it turned really black, that's the wireframe. The wireframe is so heavy to get good detail that I can't remesh at this point. It's just going to destroy all of the detail. But I wanted to leave that mistake in there so that everyone could see not to do that. Learn from my mistakes, not your own. Again, create one fingernail in the sculpt mode or in the model mode, put it in sculpt mode, give it some texture. I always knock off the tip a little bit because generally nails aren't perfectly sharp, but I create one nail And then you can just go around the rest of the hands, feet. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is the voiceover lacking? Is it unneeded? Does the video speed up and slow down too much? Do I need more explanation? Do I need to shut up and let the video explain itself? One of the things I really like about Forger, and I'm sure it's a lot of 3D sculpting programs, is making your own custom stamps for textures. With this last update, there is some weird quirk with it that doesn't quite let you use the tool as extensively as you used to. There's some sort of bug now, but with bugs, I'm sure they'll get us sorted out. I've gone into a separate file to make a wing. And again, I'm only going to make one wing, and I'm going to copy it to make the other wing. But I'm using model. I'm in the model interface, so I can rough in all of the geometry, get it all laid out where everything goes. and I'll take it back into sculpt and give it some life. I went in and used a Google image of a bat wing to kind of see how the ridges ran. And that's when I discovered I was putting ridges in the high parts and it needs to go down to the low side, easy enough to go in and adjust. But using pictures of real bats made it a lot easier to see how that should look. And in sculpt, you can give it a little bit more life so it doesn't look quite so cookie cutter. Nothing in nature is quite so cookie cutter. I'm using masks so I can go in between each rib. And give it a little bit of a contour or convex. And there you have it, my dragon. Feel free to click the link in the description. You can go and download it. There's several different formats for 3D printing. If there's anything else I can do, please let me know. If you have suggestions for anything that I could sculpt or anything that you would need, you can either message me here, or when you click that link, there's a request button. And let me know what you think about this video. It's my first audio. Not incredibly comfortable putting my voice out, but I do want to lend a little bit of help. Forger does not have a lot of videos on YouTube as some of the other applications, but I think they're growing and they seem to be doing more, and they are still working, putting out updates for the program. So we hope for bigger things in the future. Please like and ring that bell to subscribe, and have a beautiful day.